The nest is there before you see it. It's hidden in the shadows. You step outside on a July morning, maybe to check the garden, maybe to pull the hose around to the side of the house, and something catches the corner of your eye. A gray, papery shape, the size of a large fist, hanging under the eave above the back door. And the air around it is moving. Constant movement. Not wind, not a breeze. Something else entirely. Something alive is lurking inside that papery mass. Your first thought, if you are honest, is to go inside and come back with a can. That yellow and black spray can with the picture of a wasp crossed out on the label. The one that costs $8 or $9, shoots a foam stream about 4 meters and promises to kill on contact. You have probably bought it before. In fact, you know you have. You may have a half-empty one under the sink right now, tucked away. You spray the nest with that toxic chemical foam. The nest quiets down. The threat seems to be over for now. You feel like you handled it. Problem solved, or so you think. And then 3 weeks later there is another one. Just like that. Same Eave, or the one around the corner, or under the deck railing where you never thought to look. And you buy another can, back to the store again. And you spray again. The same process all over again. And the summer becomes a cycle that the pest control companies and the hardware stores and the chemical manufacturers are counting on. That cycle costs the average homeowner between $40 and $80 a summer in spray cans alone, not counting the $200 or $300 for a single professional exterminator visit. Year after year, a never-ending expense for every homeowner. House after house. It's happening everywhere on your street. Now, here is the part that should make you stop and think. Is there a better way? There is a way to stop wasps from building in the first place. A simple trick. Not a chemical. Not a poison. Not something toxic for your home. Not a subscription service. No recurring monthly fees to pay. A method that costs almost nothing, takes about 20 minutes once a year, and is based on a single fact about wasp behavior. You will have everything you need explained plainly before the end of this talk. The method, the materials, the cost, and exactly where to use it. Before I go any further, if this kind of old, practical household knowledge is what you come here for, it would mean a great deal to me if you pressed the subscribe button. There are no tricks on this channel, just honest advice. Just things that work, simple solutions for complex problems. And I want to know, where are you watching from today? Write your town, your country, anything you like, in the comments below. I read everyone, and I am always glad to know where these ideas are landing. My name is Hiroshi Tanaka. I've seen many summers in Japan. I grew up in a small mountain village in Japan, a Satoyama Village, which is a Japanese word for the inhabited edge between farmland and forest. Rice fields on one side, cedar and oak hillsides on the other, and wooden homes that had been standing for 2 and 3 generations. In that kind of place, the boundary between the house and the living world outside is thin. Insects, rodents, moisture, rot, they are all neighbors, and you learn early that fighting them one at a time, reactively, season after season, is a losing approach. My father taught me this. He was a wise man. His father taught him. Generations of knowledge. For over 40 years, I kept a working workshop behind our home. Wood, hand tools, stored rice, dried goods, ceramic jars, lengths of rope and bamboo. A warm, humid summer workshop is exactly the kind of place wasps love. Sheltered, dry on the underside, with good anchor points under every overhang. I know what a bad wasp summer looks like. It's a real headache. And I know what it looks like when you prevent one before it begins. Success. Now let me explain the one thing that, if you do not understand it, makes every other approach feel random. Wasps are territorial. This is the absolute key to understanding them. This is not a small detail. It is the entire key. It is the entire key. The foundation of the trick. A queen wasp emerging in early spring is not looking for a fight. She wants peace. She is looking for a safe, sheltered place to start a new colony, and the very first thing she checks is whether another colony is already nearby. If she sees what looks like an established nest, she moves on. She doesn't want trouble. She does not investigate. She stays far away. She does not compete. She just looks for a new spot. She simply goes elsewhere, to someone else's yard. The spray can does the opposite of what you think it does. It's a mistake. You spray an active nest, the wasps die or scatter, and you feel the problem is gone. But killing wasps, especially when you disturb a nest and they release what is called an alarm signal, a chemical message their bodies produce when threatened, actually draws attention to the site. It marks the location as a contested active zone, dangerous territory. Surviving wasps may rebuild. The cycle continues. Scouts from neighboring colonies register the disturbance. They're always watching. The spray clears the immediate problem, and in doing so, advertises the location to the next problem. The alarm signal is not a complicated thing to understand. It's a clear warning. Think of it as a wasp's version of a distress call, released into the air when the insect is crushed or threatened. Other wasps in the area detect it and respond. A swarm can form quickly. This is why swatting a wasp near a nest is one of the worst things you can do. So you are not dealing with a random pest that shows up by chance. They are smart. You are dealing with a creature that reads its environment carefully before committing to a location. And that means the environment you present to it before it decides is something you have real control over. That is the principle, a simple but effective rule of nature. The method that comes from it is older than any spray can on any shelf, and it costs almost nothing. Here is what my grandfather did every spring, without fail, before the warm weather arrived. He would take a sheet of newspaper, sometimes two, crumple it loosely, and tuck the edges inward. He would shape it roughly into a mass about the size of a closed fist. It is not precise, not crafted. Wasps are not looking for perfection, they just need to see the shape. They are looking for a signal, a sign that the space is already inhabited. He would tie a short length of twine through the top and hang it under the eave. 3 or 4 of them around the property, hung before the end of March, while the mornings were still cold. He never explained the science to me in those words. He just knew it worked. He just said, "A wasp queen looks before she builds. Listen to his wisdom. Show her the space is already taken, a peaceful home for another year. Tie it tight and hang it up, the Japanese trick to keeping your eaves wasp-free. That is the decoy nest, and it works because of exactly the territorial behavior described a moment ago. A paper bag, a crumpled sheet of newspaper, a light-colored bundle of any kind roughly shaped and hung in the open. From a distance, in the peripheral awareness of a scouting queen, it reads as an occupied nest. She moves on to find somewhere uncontested. She is not going to investigate closely. She is a creature making fast survival decisions in early spring, and a gray-white papery shape hanging under a sheltered overhang is enough of a signal to redirect her elsewhere. The materials are almost embarrassingly simple. For the decoy nests, you need either a brown paper lunch bag, available in any grocery or general store, sold in packs of approximately 60 to 80 bags for around $2 to $3, or plain newspaper, which you likely already have. If you use a paper lunch bag, blow a small amount of air into it, twist the open end closed, tuck it over on itself, and tie twine around the neck so it hangs with the rounded bottom facing downward. It should be roughly the size and shape of a large apple or slightly bigger. That is genuinely all there is to it. If you want to do it correctly, crumple the outside of the bag slightly with your hands before hanging it, so the surface has some texture. Wasps build nests with a slightly layered, irregular surface. The crumpling approximates this well enough. Hang them on short lengths of twine. 30 to 45 centimeters is enough, so they turn and move slightly in a breeze. Movement is good, as it helps mimic the natural sway of a real nest. A real nest moves with the wind. Tie them under eaves, under deck railings, under the overhanging roof of any outbuilding, under the lip of a porch, in the corner of an open carport. Any sheltered overhang where wasps have built before, or where the structure looks like an attractive site, dry underneath, protected from direct rain, with a solid anchor point above. The cost of this entire first step, between nothing if you use newspaper you already have, and about $3 if you buy a pack of paper bags. It costs only $3 for a pack of approximately 60 to 80 paper bags. The second part of the method addresses the eaves and rafters directly, because the decoy works on scouts in open air, but cedar oil works at the surface itself. Cedar has been used in Japanese homes and storehouses for centuries, not because it smells pleasant to us, though it does, but because the natural oils in cedar wood repel insects. The storehouse in our village, the kura, was built from cedar and cypress, and the old craftsmen who maintained it knew that keeping the wood dry and aired meant keeping pests at a distance. The smell is not a trick. It is a genuine chemical deterrent. Wasps, hornets, and many other insects dislike the compounds in cedar oil and will avoid surfaces treated with it when given a choice. You do not need to panel your eaves in cedar wood. You need a small bottle of cedar essential oil, widely available in health food shops, some hardware stores, and online, for around $4 to $6 for 30 milliliters, and water. Mix approximately 15 to 20 drops of cedar oil into a spray bottle filled with water. Shake it well before each use because oil and water do not stay combined on their own. Then spray it lightly along the undersides of your eaves, along exposed rafters, on the wooden surfaces of any overhang where wasps tend to anchor their nests. Do this once at the start of spring and again after any heavy rain that might wash the surfaces clean. The smell fades to the human nose within a few days, but it remains present on the surface long enough to matter during the early scouting period, which is when the decision of where to build is being made. The total cost of the cedar oil spray, $4 to $6 for enough oil to last you 2 to 3 seasons if you are treating a standard home. Combined with the paper bags, your entire prevention system costs well under $10, and perhaps nothing at all if you start with newspaper. That is the method. 2 parts. 2 parts. One for distance, one for the surface up close. One addresses the wasp's territorial instinct from a distance. The other addresses the surface she would land on and test up close. My grandfather hung those paper shapes every spring for as long as I can remember. I asked him once, I was perhaps 10 years old, standing in the workshop doorway watching him tie the twine, whether it truly worked or whether it was just an old habit. He looked at the shape in his hands for a moment. Then he said, "Count the nests in this workshop." I counted as he asked me to do. There were none to be found anywhere. He nodded once and went back to tying the knot. He was not the kind of man who needed to say more than that. I have done the same thing every spring since I was old enough to remember to do it. In our village, it was common practice. Not something exotic, not something ceremonial, just one of the small tasks of early spring, like clearing the winter debris from the engawa or checking the storehouse seals before the humid season arrived. Something the older people did without fuss, because they had learned that 20 minutes in March is worth 3 months of trouble avoided. The approach is not complicated. Nothing about it requires special knowledge or tools. It requires only that you do it before the warm weather arrives, while the queens are still making their first scouting passes of the season, before any decision about where to build has been made. Timing is the one thing you cannot buy your way around. The decoy must be in place before the nest begins, not after. And that brings us to something worth being plain about, because honest is better than impressive. And there are real limits to what this method can and cannot do. I will not skip this part, because it matters. The decoy nest method and the cedar oil spray are prevention tools. They work on queens making early season decisions about where to build. They do not work on a colony that already exists. If you are reading this in the middle of July, and there is a nest the size of a grapefruit hanging under your eave right now, with hundreds of workers coming and going, this method will not fix that. It is simply not going to work today, as the colony is already established. It will not fix the problem this week because the decision has been made. A functioning colony has already committed to that location. The workers are not scouting anymore. The wasps are defending their territory with absolute commitment. For a large, active nest, especially one near a doorway, a child's play area, or anywhere people pass regularly, get professional help. I will be plain about this. The cost of a professional removal for a single established nest runs between $100 and $200 in most places. That is real money that you have to spend on professional help. But an established colony of several hundred wasps disturbed by an amateur with a can of spray and no protective equipment is a genuine danger, and no saving of money is worth that. Some wasp species, particularly the larger hornets and the ground-nesting varieties you sometimes find in old lawns or under decking, are more aggressive when threatened than the common paper wasp. If you are not certain what species you are dealing with, be cautious and back away. The method I have described also will not protect you against ground-nesting wasps, which do not build the papery aerial nests that decoys mimic. These species build underground, usually in old rodent burrows or under flat stones, and they are not making the same territorial aerial survey. For ground nesters, the approach is different, and that is a subject for another time. What this method will do, reliably, year after year, at almost no cost, is prevent the common paper wasps and aerial nesting hornets from choosing your home as a building site in the first place. Remember, prevention applied consistently is worth far more than 10 reactive treatments you might need later. That is true of most home problems, and it is especially true of wasps. Now, I want to be honest with you about one more thing. Decoy nests eventually weather and deteriorate. A paper bag left out through a full summer of rain and heat will look ragged and unconvincing by autumn. This is fine. The critical window is spring, when queens are scouting, but replace them each year to keep the deterrent effective. Take the old ones down at the end of the season and put up fresh ones in March. This is not a set-and-forget solution across multiple years. It is a set and refresh solution, once annually, for about 20 minutes of your time. Now let me tell you how to scale this into a full system, so you are not just protecting one eave, but the whole property. Walk your home and outbuildings once in late February or early March before the weather has fully turned. You are looking for every sheltered overhang, every place that is dry underneath, protected from direct rain, and has something solid to anchor to above. Under the main eaves at each corner of the house, under the soffit where it meets the garage, under deck railings, especially corner posts and the underside of the decking boards at the edges, under the roof lip of any shed or outbuilding, under a covered porch or open carport, the overhang above an outward opening door, particularly a side or back door that gets less traffic. For a standard single-family home with 1 or 2 outbuildings, you are likely looking at between 8 and 12 decoy positions. Prepare your paper bags or newspaper decoys in an evening. It takes perhaps 30 minutes to make a dozen, including cutting the twine to length. Hang them on a dry morning when there is some breeze, so you can see that they move and turn freely. Check them once in late April to make sure none have been damaged by early spring rain. That is the full annual commitment. For the cedar oil spray, walk the same route with your spray bottle. Spray lightly along the undersides of eaves, the exposed wood of rafters and fascia boards, the wooden surfaces of shed overhangs, and the upper wooden surfaces of deck railings and posts. You are not soaking the wood. A light, even mist is enough. Allow it to dry for an hour before rain is expected, or apply it on a dry morning. If you get a prolonged period of heavy rain in early April, apply a second pass. After that, the scouting season for most aerial nesting wasps in temperate climates has largely passed, and a new colony location has either been chosen elsewhere or not at all. The annual rhythm looks like this. Late February or early March, hang the decoys and apply the first cedar spray. Late April, a quick check and a second cedar pass if heavy rain has fallen. End of October or November, remove the old decoys and store the spray bottle somewhere dry. Now that is the full system. Just 3 short sessions a year. Now, here is the part that should sit with you a little. Pest control companies in most countries operate as subscription businesses. The model is not to solve your problem permanently. The model is to manage it season after season, in a way that requires you to keep calling. A yearly contract for Wasp and general pest control runs, on average, between $200 and $400 annually, depending on your region and the size of your property. Over 10 years, that is between $2,000 and $4,000 spent on a problem that a paper bag and $6 of cedar oil could have largely prevented. I am not saying pest control professionals have no value. For serious infestations, for ground nesting species, for large established colonies in walls or roof spaces, they are the right answer. But for the common seasonal problem of wasps building under your eaves every summer, the reactive spray and call cycle is not solving anything. It is servicing a problem that prevention would stop. There is no money in teaching you to hang a paper bag in March. No product to sell, no return visit to schedule. The knowledge is old, it is free, and it works. And those three things together are exactly why it never appears on a label or in a service brochure. My grandfather understood this without ever putting it into those words. He was a practical man from a village where nobody had money to waste and nobody was coming to fix things for you. You learned to stop problems before they started because there was no other option. Not because he was clever, because he had no choice. And what necessity teaches, it teaches thoroughly. Here is what I want you to do this weekend. Go to your nearest grocery store or general store and pick up 1 pack of brown paper lunch bags. They will cost you between $2 and $3 for a pack of 60 or more. While you are there, or the next time you are near a health food shop or a pharmacy with a natural products section, pick up 1 small bottle of cedar essential oil, 30 milliliters, around $4 to $6. That is your entire shopping list, 2 items, under $10 total, and the cedar oil will last you 2 to 3 seasons. When you get home, make your decoys. Take a bag, blow a small breath of air into it, twist the open end closed, fold it over on itself, and crumple the outside surface lightly with both hands. Cut a length of twine, 30 to 45 centimeters. Tie it around the twisted neck and leave a loop at the top for hanging. Make between 8 and 12 of these depending on the size of your property. It takes just 1 evening. Then walk your home. Every sheltered overhang, every eave corner, every shed roof lip, every deck railing corner, every covered doorway. Hang 1 decoy at each point, high enough to be visible from a distance, with enough slack in the twine that it turns in a breeze. Then mix 15 to 20 drops of cedar oil into a full spray bottle of water. Shake it well and mist the undersides of your eaves, your exposed rafters, your shed overhangs, and the upper wooden surfaces of any outdoor structure where wasps have anchored before. Simply let it dry completely. Do this before the end of March, while the mornings are still cold and the queens are not yet flying in numbers. That timing is the one thing that cannot be replaced by any product or any amount of money spent later. Check the decoys once in late April. Reapply the cedar spray if you have had heavy rain. At the end of autumn, take the old decoys down. Next February, start again. 20 minutes, under $10 every year. Now I want to ask you something directly, and I hope you will take a moment to answer in the comments. Have you ever tried a non-chemical method for wasps or any other pest? Something old, something passed down, something you read about and decided to test yourself. Did it work? I ask, because the comments on this channel have taught me more than I expected when I started sharing these things. People write in from mountain regions of Europe, from farms in the American South, from old wooden homes in Scandinavia and Korea and New Zealand, and they describe methods their own grandparents used that I had never encountered. It is one of the things I value most about this conversation. Write your experience below. What did you try? Where did you learn it? And did it hold up? I read every comment and I answer when I can. If you have been watching for a while and have not yet subscribed, I will ask you plainly now, press the button. There is no filler on this channel, no products being sold, no noise. Every talk is one problem, one method, real materials, real costs, and honest limits. If that is useful to you, Subscribing makes sure you do not miss the next one. And the next one is something I think will interest you if wasps and summer pests have been on your mind. Wasps around the eaves are one problem, but there is a related issue that almost always comes paired with it in humid summer conditions, one that involves the wood itself, the moisture that collects in shaded overhangs, and a damage pattern that moves quietly for 2 or 3 seasons before it becomes expensive. The prevention method is similarly old, similarly cheap, and similarly absent from any product shelf. We will go through it carefully, material by material, step by step. But before I go, I want to leave you with one thought. The spray can is not the enemy. The reflex is. The reflex that says the answer to every home problem is a product, something purchased, applied, and repeated. That reflex is learned. It was not always there. The people who built wooden homes in mountain villages, who kept workshops and storehouses and rice stores through humid summers and heavy winters without a hardware store in driving distance, they thought in systems, not in purchases. They thought in seasons. They observed what was coming before it arrived and arranged things accordingly. 20 minutes in March instead of 3 months of trouble. That is not a lost art. It is a habit. And habits can be started at any age, with any amount of money, on any weekend you decide to begin. Take care of the small things before they grow. Keep your hands busy and your eyes on the season ahead. The old people in the mountains had very little, and their homes lasted 100 years. And now you know why.